So the other day what did we do? the other day we now I remember the other day we used the rust converter, washed it, wiped it down with metho, and then we sprayed it with the primer. So today we're just going to give it a light sand and just see what, if anything, needs any filling. We don't yet have a top coat. I've ordered that, that's on the way, but it's just a spray can, you know, and it'll do for the roof, because I didn't even see this until we climbed up there. And I'm just using this 100 grit, and that'll do just to give it a light sand. See what we can find. But let's give it a spray. So we put it on pretty thick, and tomorrow we'll give it a sand, and then another coat of primer perhaps, but just a light coat. And I don't think we're going to need to do any filling at all. It's pretty good. There we go. That's right. Well, look, someone rushed to my aid. Now, the only, what have you been rolling in? Have a look at this dog. Just have a look at this. See that crusty stuff? I have no idea what that is. Look what I got. In the movies they show people getting tied up, and they use sophisticated knots and rope and stuff, but really all you need is bubble wrap and tape to make something unopenable. Anyway, look, these are the Duplicolor that Super Cheap used to stock but no longer do, so I can't just nip down the road and get them. These are the Nissan White for the roof of the Nissan. It's late in the day, but it actually enables us to see how I have overfilled these holes, but that then of course gives us the opportunity to rub that out and give us a level surface. So that might be a job that we'll get stuck into tomorrow. Now we have that paint. So we've sanded it, washed it, wiped it down with metho, but here you can see I've rubbed right through to corrosion, and what we're going to do is put a very light coat of primer over much of this before we do the top coat. So that's it. Now, it's not perfect, but it's the roof, and I didn't even know it was there until I jumped up in the tub like I am standing now here in this tub. So anyway, you can actually see on top of the roof. And so once we've treated this rust, once we've primed it, once we put a top coat on, it'll give us another 10 years. So the troopy's gone off to the mechanic today, and I dropped back in just before I left the area and there's quite a few things need doing, so I'm just waiting on getting a price, but it does involve things like those springs and swivel hub and stuff like that, so it's probably going to cost a few bucks, but well, who really cares? We've got to get the thing back on the road again, I reckon. So what we're going to do now though is take a look at this car over here, which is the Navara, and remember we started on this some time back, and there's a video about that called Rust Never Sleeps. I'll link to that one for you, but let's jump over there and see what needs to be done. So it's easy to get sidetracked. What I want to do is have a look at the top of this Nissan and have a look at what we might need to do to get back to square one. As you can see, there's quite a bit of rust has reappeared, so let's get the sandpaper and clean up every one of these rust patches. So I talked some more about poor Millie's legs, but check out the video on the Troopy, Rise of the Troopy, volume 7, and I talk about that a bit more. Remember way back when I was making a video in the backyard and I could hear the goat talking to me. I think that goat's desperately trying to tell me something, but the other thing that well, today I've got a couple of dogs who join me because I can see over the fence. I won't show you over the fence because that's somebody else's backyard, but standing in the back of the ute, I'm tall enough to be able to see over it, and that means I'm visible to them. Yeah, this is it. We'll give it a very light sand. I got a couple of these, I told you about those a while back. I'll give it a light sand. I think one can will be enough to give it a cover. You can hear those dogs now. Some of it's still a little damp, but will it harden and dry overnight? And I think you'll see that it, another coat, it's kind of good enough, but it just shows you how little is in those cans, as we've discussed before. That's a whole can just to do that small patch. So you wouldn't want to be trying to paint a car with it, would you? So look, now we've done the Nissan Navara roof, that top coat. We do have another can, and I'm going to put that on. What's the point of keeping it? And that's pretty thin, so even that one can barely covers anything really, sort of one very thin coat. So we'll put on the second one, and then we'll put it back together. So those roof racks have to go back on, etc. As you'll recall in the first episode, Russ Never Sleeps 01, taking them off and figuring out how they came off. Well, I'm hoping that with the passage of time we haven't lost our memories and we can figure out how to reverse that and put them back on again. So here's the second can for doing the touch-up, and I'm just going to give this first coat a very light rub down. Now this is 600 grit, wet and dry, so we'll just dampen the roof and give it a very light rub. So there we go, the finished product. Now that's obviously still slightly wet, but once that dries, it'll be pretty damn good, I reckon. So the weather's still not the best, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of things. Well, one thing really, I suppose, and that is to finish off that the Navara, the rust repair that we did, by putting back on the roof racks, and that job will be complete. Just before we do though, we're going to put a coat of wax on the roof just to give it added protection against the weather. Now what I do have in there though is all of the filters, belts and hoses for the Troopy. So check out the Rise of the Troopy videos, because we've got that back now from the mechanic. We've got the roadworthy and we've now got the registration for it. But I picked up all of those things, the hoses, the belts and the filters, so we can do it, give it a once over and change the oil, put a new oil filter on, etc., as well as fuel and air filters. Anyway, let's go and set up this Navara, get those roof racks on. So we'll let that dry, and we'll go and get those roof racks and just see what it is that we need to do to put them on. Are you listening to this? Because you're going to be helping with this. Come on, let's get the roof racks. As you'll recall, there was a little patch of tape over this locating pin, so we're just going to use some duct tape and replicate that. I think we'll grab some scissors. So I marked these with something. Alright, so rear left. So this side faces here, and that's the rear one. So let's see if we can get that on. How we spoke about that, this in fact works as the spanner itself, or tool to wind it down. So we've popped that into its little locating pin, we've straightened it up as best we can, and we're just now currently winding it down. Let's go and fit the other side on. Damn good. Just a bit of tightening up and that's good to go. So we've got the rear on, time for the front. I think this is like a good lesson too for why we label things, because while it may not matter where it goes, in this case, you know, I can put this back on and know that that's the front one and that the left side faces that way, so it's a good reason why we do label things. Now I could go around with a knife and cut off that excess, but to be perfectly honest, do I really care? Once the door's shut, can't see a lot. Well, there we go. Now that would have taken probably the best part of a year more actually, and it's a bit regrettable that it does take so long to do things, but I suppose it's interspersed with other things, you know, for example the BMW, which you can see here, and I've established what the issue is with that, so keep an eye out for updates on that. And also the Troopy, which, as you will see in the next Troopy update, Rise of the Trophy number 9, I think it is. It's on the road. I've got all of that suspension work done, all the brakes, the bearings, and steering works and stuff like that, swivel hubs, freewheeling hubs. As well as that window. Do you remember the window only wound halfway down, and then you had to lift it up or push it down or whatever, you know, to get it to go the rest of the way? That's fixed. So look, it's good. Now, I did get, as I said a moment ago, new hoses, belts, filters, and so I'm going to do an oil change. I'm going to replace the fuel filter, the air filter, all 3 belts and the 2 hoses, and at the same time give the radiator a flush because the water in there looked a little murky. So I'll see how hard it is to get the whole radiator out and flush it out. Whatever, I'll get it done anyway. Now, the other thing that I wanted to touch on too was that I think I've probably spoken about a couple of health issues at various times, and one of which is this right knee, you know, which has given me grief for a number of years. I think way back as far as 2012, so 13 years ago now. I think the doc said that I had some osteo or something or other in that knee, and gradually everything kind of wears out until you've got a bone-on-bone thing happening. And while it's not always painful, at times it can be, so I end up having to wear a you know, compression bandage or something like that, and at one stage even using a stick because it was just quite painful to walk. Anyway, I've now got a date for the 4th of September, which is around about a month or 4 weeks from now. In fact, it's exactly 4 weeks because it's on a Thursday. So it's exactly 4 weeks from now for that op. And they say there's a 4 to 6 week recovery. Let's see if we can break a record, because that's a long time. Anyway, time for a cover. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.